right. So we're going to go ahead and get started, Jamie.
All right.
Jami Goto, right?
That is correct.
Okay. It's not go to. It's not
At least not
Gato.
today.
Goto.
Goto, yeah.
Okay. Well, Jamie, well, we're glad to have you here today. Can you tell us where are you located? Where's home for you?
I am in Surprise, Arizona. We're just northwest of Phoenix.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you're a long armor that I have met before. And
Yes.
how long have you been doing long arming?
Since 2010, as a business since 2010. So I previous to that I played on a long arm. A friend of mine had a gamble. She had a hand guided gamble, and so I played on hers for a while before I decided to jump in the business.
Okay, so you had a friend with a gamble, and you were able to kind of get a taste of it and try it out. So when you got your gamble, you got it specifically to start doing business.
I did. I did. I had been in the mortgage industry for 27 years, and when everything happened in '08, I was laid off and was trying to figure out what did I want to be when I grew up. So, I'd been quilting since high school, but hadn't really done a whole lot of it while raising a family and all that good stuff. So, when I decided to take the plunge after playing on my friend's Gamble Classic, I knew that I wanted a Gamble because I had done some research and knew it was the Cadillac of long arm quilting machines. And I knew that going Statler was the right choice for me because I am much more of a computer person than artistic in the way that a lot of hand guided people are.
And did you said you did a little bit of research. Did you kind of check your shop around a little bit and
Did
tell
I
us
did
about
it
that?
mostly? I didn't really test any because I already kind of knew I wanted to go gamble, but I just wanted to make sure I did some research and just looked at ratings and just there was not quite as much out there on long arms as you see today, even though it's only 14 years ago. But with all the social media and whatnot, you see a lot
A
more of it
lot has
today.
happened in 14 years.
A lot has happened in 14 years. So for me, it was just talking to people that I knew that had long arms, and some of them had some of the other competitors that were just coming out on the market, and they bought what they could afford, and I just knew that I wanted a Statler.
Now, this friend of yours that you were able to use on, did she have a computerized or a hand guided?
No, she had hand guided, and she actually had one. Oh gosh, I think she bought her first one in around 2000. So she'd had one for quite a while, and she actually shared it with another friend. They went in together and bought it, and then she had to sell it for some unknown reason. And then, like 6 months later, she's like, "Why did I do that?" She went and got another one, and she bought it for herself and put it in her garage.
Hmm.
And then her daughter, who was very, she was just out of high school. She learned how to do it. So she's the one that actually showed me how to load a quilt and do the hand guided part. So here I had this young whippersnapper teaching me how to quilt.
So, so do you still have the same gamble that you started out with?
No, actually, I bought the Statler in 2010. I was running 4.2, so that kind of goes way back.
Yeah.
And in yeah, and in 2013, we decided to buy a second machine because I was so busy and trying to keep up. And I taught my husband how to do edge to edge.
Oh,
And yes, so I taught him. So he at that time I had a machine that was in a local shop, and then my friend's shop who had a hand got a gamble. And he had a machine at home, so I just set him up and gave him his assignments for the day.
Wow.
And so he had the newer machine at the house, and I had my original machine at the shop. And but when we decided to move to Arizona in 2016, I sold my original machine and brought the newer one with me. So that's the one that I have is the one from 2013.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. So, so when you first started, you started out with the, to build a business. Did you did you know if there was enough business in the area like when you first started, or tell us a little bit
I
about that?
I did, and at the time, times in 2010, and especially in Southern California where I was working, um, there was a lot of quilt shops then. It's amazing what's happened in the 14 years, how the brick and mortar quilt shops have kind of gone by the wayside. But I was very, very lucky because my friends owned the shop and I was able to set my business up in their shop. So I just rented space from them. And so there's actually two of us that were in the shop because it was a pretty large shop. And their daughter is the one that taught me. She's the one that had the other machine in the shop. So we both just rented space from people, our friends that own the shop, and I got started there. I didn't take customer business immediately. I did lots and lots of charity quilts.
Mm.
I probably worked a straight 60 days every single day. Well, I should say every single day, 5 days a week, I should say. For a good 2 months before I decided I was ready to take on a customer quilt, and it's just been nonstop since.
So you started out doing like a solid 2 months of just charity work, huh?
Yes.
And what? Why was that? Just for practicing, or what?
It was just really just to get feel comfortable with the software, to know what I was doing. I felt like it was a good step to just get proficient, and it was just mainly because I wanted to make sure I was putting out a quality product, and that was utmost important to me, was to make sure that I am giving customer something that they want, and that's quality. Make sure my tension
Yeah.
was good, everything was, it was the perfect quilt. So that was
So,
my main
yeah.
focus. And I just had tons of charity quilts, not that I had done, that the shop had gotten involved with. So to me, it was the right thing to do.
So looking back now, um, do you think that was a good move for you to have that couple of months of doing that before you jumped in full fledged?
I wouldn't say I would have needed technically 2 months to do it. I think I had always worked for somebody. It was just, am I ready to take that plunge? And it was kind of a fear factor thing for me
You were
because
used to working for somebody, and you just had that old PTSD where you think you might get in trouble.
exactly, and there's nothing worse than having somebody come back and say, "Oh gosh, I am not happy with what you did," which thank goodness in 14 years, that's probably only happened once. And it was a pattern that she selected, so it wasn't really my fault. So, but
You remember
wait,
that
what's
one
that?
time well.
I do. But yeah, so it's 60 days to me. Doing it 5 days a week is not a necessity by any stretch of the imagination, especially the way the software is developed.
Gotcha.
Um, to me, it's much easier to work in Creative Studio today than it was back when I was on 4.2. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I really just don't think that that's a necessity. I think it's really, I think 30 days would be a long push, but you know, it just depends
Gotcha.
on each
Gotcha.
individual. Yeah.
Yeah, and our target audience, for this podcast is, people who are, either starting a business or thinking about going into business. And
Right.
we just want the real take from people like you of what works, what doesn't work, what might be
Mhm.
necessary, what you think, is not necessary. So yeah. When you got that first Statler, how did you where'd you get the funds to do that? How'd that work out?
From our savings, we, you know, it was something that we felt was a good investment, and that's how we looked at it. And we just decided that it was worthwhile to pull the money out of our savings and just purchase the machine outright. And we actually purchased both of our machines outright.
Okay. And when you first started doing the quilting, uh, were you working when you first started or not at that time?
No, no, I hadn't worked for over 2 years. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah,
So what year did you say you started again?
2010.
Okay. So yeah, so that was 2 years after that, 2008. Yeah, that was a fun time for many people.
Yeah, no, it wasn't, but yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. So now, well, tell me about like where you are now and where you have been as far as like how much time you put into this, like how many hours a week you used to be working on it, and what you're doing now, and the reasons for that, and what's going on.
Yeah, for me, when I initially started, I was treating it like a regular full-time job. I worked Monday through Friday. I was in the shop usually by 7:30 in the morning, and the shop closed at 5. So I would typically leave, my hours were my own hours. I wasn't tied to shop hours, but to me, it was important to be there when the shop was open. So shop didn't open until 9, but I always like to get an early start. I was always an early bird type person. So I was always in there early. So I would say I was probably working 50, 45, 50 hours a week initially. And once I started taking quilts in, it's never stopped. I have never not had work ever. So for me, obviously it's advantageous being in a shop because you get a lot of that walk-in clientele. Um, but after that, it was still word of mouth. If you don't do a good job, it doesn't matter that you're in a shop. If you aren't putting out a quality product, it doesn't matter that you're in a shop. The key point is that you still have to make sure you're doing quality work, you're doing what the customer wants, and just the fact that you are tied to the shop, obviously, you're representing the shop as well, even though I don't work for them, but still, it's a representation of the shop. So initially, I would say it was definitely more than probably the 40 hours a week. Since we moved to Arizona, I was probably working 40 hours when we first got here, but about 4 years ago, decided to cut my hours back. I am now only working 4 days a week. So mainly because I decided I needed more me time.
Hmm.
And so I'm working about 32 hours a week right now. And the goal is probably in another 2, 3 years, I'll probably cut that back to 3 days. Mainly because income requirements are not the same as they were 14 years ago. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's, the ability to make the income is definitely still there. It's just that I decided to be selfish and have a little bit more me time.
yeah, and that's not selfish. That's great because that gives, yeah, that me time, the freedom to to do what you want with your own life. You're not like, it's not like a ball and chain to you. You
Oh, no.
just, it gives you a lot of freedom. Because if
Right.
you were still working for somebody else all this time, I think it would be a lot different picture than what you're seeing right now.
Oh, 100%. And there's nothing like the freedom to be able to make that decision to where I'm not having to get approval from anybody other than myself and my husband.
Yeah.
So,
Um, Let me ask you, when you started out, you were in the shop there, and when you started out, do you know, could you say what kind of percentage um, your of your business was like walk-in versus other sources? I mean, do you have any memory about that?
Walk in initially was all 100%, obviously. Um, from I would say probably after the first year was when my name was kind of gotten out, it had kind of gotten out there, and I started getting a lot of referral business. So, probably within the first year, I would say walk-in business was probably maybe 50%. And the rest was repeat and referrals. And that continued to kind of go down as time went on, just because I gained such a large clientele.
Right,
And yeah, so I was very lucky. And I know that I was lucky, but I also feel that the decisions that I made and the way I treated my customers and the quality product I was putting out there was why I was
right.
successful.
Now, and you started out, you were in Southern California, is that
Originally,
right?
yes, I was in Orange County originally. Yeah.
Okay, so you were in a populous area. Now, are
Yes.
you, and when you moved, what year did you say you moved?
2016.
And is the place you live now a real populous area, or
It,
what is that like?
definitely not like Orange County. Uh,
Right. Yeah, nothing is.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, not anywhere remotely close to that. We're actually considered rural, which I kind of laugh because I'm in a neighborhood just like everybody else with houses all back, next to each other. Um, but it's not, uh, you know, we're 45 minutes away from Phoenix, so it's not like we're in the heart of the cosmopolitan area. So yeah,
Right.
I would really say more, even though we're considered rural, I would say we're more suburban than rural. And amazingly, there we have several quilt shops that are in our local area. I mean, within a 20-minute drive, there's four different quilt stores, and which is almost unheard of anymore.
Yeah,
So
there's still a few out there. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, there's a lot of movement towards people are working from their homes and stuff like that.
right.
Um, uh, so now, as you stand right now, do you do all edge to edge? Do you do any custom, or what's that like?
I do a combination. I do probably 75, 80% edge to edge and 25% custom. I I've kind of become a specialist in the Judy Niemeyer realm. So my
Okay.
name is out there. People know. I have people ship me quilts from other parts of the country because somehow my name has gotten out there that I do a lot of custom quilting on those. But physically, they're demanding. So
Mhm.
I limit my number of customs. And in reality, your bread and butter is your edge to edge.
Right.
So, I enjoy doing custom work. I have had to cut back on doing custom with a lot of applique, and that's just because I physically can't do it. I have issues with my back. So it's not that I don't want to do it, it's because I physically can't do it. Um, Whereas the Judy Meyer is a little different animal. It's not like you're standing around clicking around applique. um, for the most part, it's just plotting out your boundary and plopping in your patterns and letting it go. But um, so yeah, I usually designate 1 week a month to do custom, and then the rest of the time is pretty much edge to edge.
Okay. Okay. And how do you charge by the hour, by the square inch? Tell us about that. And what would you?
On my edge to edge, charge by the square inch. So I start at 2.5, and which is just for basic, your meander, your you
Uh-huh.
know easy stuff. But a majority of my customers go where they have a much bigger selection, and I that's at 2.75 it starts per square inch. My custom is by the hour, because you just never really know what it's going to
Yeah.
take to do that. And that was a choice. You know, some people charge by the square inch and it works for them. But when I'm working, I'm working. When I start working for the day at 8 o'clock-ish in the morning, it's not like I'm taking breaks and doing that. It's a full day for me. Um, so, for the hour, I keep very close track of my time that I work on quilts. And, it just made the best sense for me. And, there's people out there that put a lot of time into their quilts, but they don't want to pay for the custom quilting. And for me, that's, you're not willing to pay, then I'm not your quilter. And I have that luxury to turn that kind of business away, because I'm not going to quilt something and spend all my time and resources for not getting paid fairly for what I do.
And
Has
has
that
that has that kind of always been the case um, in your
It
past?
has for me. It was when I was in the shop, the daughter that had the other machine, she charged by the square inch on everything. Um, and it was just my choice. So, it was her business, and I did my business my way. And I just felt that I was more fairly compensated doing it by the hour versus by the inch.
Okay. And that's good information for a lot of the people that watch and listen to this show, because I know that's something that we get questions on a lot of time, the
Yeah,
by the hour versus by the square inch. And I think you've made a good case for the by the hour,
right.
because because that way you get paid for your time.
Right. I just think it's for me, I think it's the most fair way to do it. Because the same quilt, if I do the exact same quilt, say it's a Judy Nehemiah, but I don't have a bunch of thread color changes, or maybe this one's not pieced as well. So you're having to do a lot of manipulation in your patterns. That all takes time. And I don't think it would be fair for me to charge the one quilt that has fewer thread changes and perfect piecing and charge the same for something that has a lot more thread changes and needs a little attention on the piecing.
Right,
So,
right.
it's what my time is worth. And that was my business decision as to why I
Yeah.
chose to do it that way.
And I think that's a valuable that's a valuable statement. It's what your time is worth.
Right.
Um, I have a question from one of the viewers. Said, so for design work on the custom, do you charge for the planning and design time too?
I do. I do.
Okay.
So, but for the most part, because I do a lot of the Judy Nehemiahs, the planning for those, there's really not much planning, because so many of the patterns are digitized for the different patterns that are out there. So for those, it's for the other kind of quilts, maybe where you've got something with a lot of set triangles and block work and that sort of a thing. That takes a lot of additional time, because you're deciding on what patterns, making sure my customer wants the design that I've gone for. So yes, in those cases, but if they give me free reign, a lot of times I'm doing design work while I'm stitching out an edge to edge. So I don't necessarily charge for that, because it really is kind of case by case.
Gotcha. Um, Let me ask you this, Jamie. It sounds like you were kind of at a certain level of volume wise for a while, and now you're a little bit down from that. Um,
Yeah.
Prop on during your busiest time, do you have an idea about how many quilts you would do in a year?
I can, yes,
The
actually.
upper number versus the lower number?
My busiest year was with 2013, 2014. At that time I had two machines, but
Mm.
there's kind of a caveat to those 2 years because I actually did work on some costume work for the movie industry. And so those are other opportunities that are out there that a lot of people aren't aware of. I actually quilted fabric for the Hunger Games series and also for the movie
Really?
Tomorrowland. I did. I did. So, which the one I did for Tomorrowland was a whole bunch of yardage and was a ton of work, and I would never do it again because I was running two machines for 6 weeks straight because you're on a time crunch with that. So there's good and bad. But and unfortunately that movie was a huge success. Oh well. But the Hunger Games was actually one specific costume, so it wasn't nearly as labor intensive, and it was a lot of fun to work on, and I get to see it on the screen, so that's kind of fun.
So that was that the original Hunger Games movie, or
Actually, it was the fourth one, Mockingjay Part Two. So it's
and
when they were actually,
which costume was it?
it was the one that was kind of a hooded cape. It was green, kind of a green color fabric. It was actually a satin with a organza on top. So, and some of it had to be fireproof fabric on the backing because there were points when she could have been on fire, I guess. Um,
So that was
so that was
the
kind of
main
fun.
girl. The main girl wore that.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
Jennifer. Yeah, she
your
did.
claim to fame there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. So, but to get back to the original question, that year I could probably give you more income wise. What I did that year, those 2 years were pretty much the same, and then we were right around $66,000 for each year. Um, so quilt
Nice.
volume wise, again that was with two machines. Um, but I took a lot of time off that year too. So that that was probably my highest income year. I probably took all about almost 2 months off that year. So if I
Wow.
had worked those 2 months, it would have been a nice chunk of change that year. The next highest year was actually 2023, believe it or not, and I only worked 4 days a week last year. And I did approximately 450 quilts, and it was for my income last year was 59,000. So, and that's only working 4 days a week. So
And do you think is that because have are your prices higher than they were? If you're able to ask more, or
yeah, that's it's funny is I just raised my square inch price in 2023. I went up a quarter of a cent. So, we're not talking significant. I did also raise my custom rate from $30 to $35 an hour. So yeah, obviously that's a factor. Because in 2024 or 20, excuse me, 2022, my income was below 50,000, but I also took some time off then too, because we moved, and so that was a little bit of a factor there too. So, but I mean, last year was probably a pretty good representation. Um,
okay,
I worked normal. I didn't really take any significant time off. I probably took 3, 4 weeks off last year throughout the course of the year. Um, but not
nice.
bad for working 4 days a week.
Yeah. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, I one thing that I hear is that you seem to have a lot of freedom. You can
Oh,
yeah, you can take time.
100%. 100%. I'm very, very lucky because I have all of my grandchildren are within about a 5 mile radius. And there's been times
Oh,
when the kids have gotten sick at school, or, somebody needs, grandma needs to step in and walk babysit, or, whatever. But yeah,
yeah,
and
that's the important stuff there.
absolutely family first, family first. But yeah, plus, if they are sick and they have to stay at grandma and grandpa's, I can still work. So that's the other perk. So for the most part, unless it's something super serious. But no, I mean, yeah, when they have a little cold and can't go to school, then they stay with grandma and papa and be spoiling,
Yeah,
and I work.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm really I'm enjoying talking to you today. This is good. Um,
this is fun.
Let me ask you, Jamie, do you at your, you run your shop out of your house there. Do you sell supplies like batting, wide back fabrics, etc.?
I sell batting. I carry a wide range of batting because being in Arizona, we have a lot of snowbirds. So there's a lot of different requests from people who don't live here year round. And believe it or not, I carry about 20 different colors of 90-inch white minky, which you're thinking, Arizona, why would you be using a lot of minky? But I sell a lot of minky. And I decided
There's
I
a lot
used
of
to
snow,
carry,
like you said, there's a lot of snowbirds there.
there are, and you know what? My grandkids, they don't want to quilt unless it has minky on the back, even here in Arizona. So
Okay.
they like the cuddliness of it, and that's totally fine. But
Yeah.
so that's definitely a perk. It adds to my bottom line. And I charge retail prices. And so I don't want to undercut my quilt shops and those that are selling it as well. So I always
Mhm.
take that into consideration, is because I think it's important not to undercut them. And same thing with batting. I don't sell batting at a discount. I sell it at the same price that the quilt shop sell it for.
Yeah.
So
As I'm talking to you, one thing I sense is there's a there's a certain confidence in knowing what you're worth, knowing what your work is worth, and not being apologetic or timid about that. And
no,
I think that carries over to um, probably your conversation with customers. Just talking to them, they that sense of yeah, my work is worth this amount, and take it or leave it.
right.
Um, do you think that mindset is an important thing, or what?
100%. You have to, and I'm not saying that happened right away either. It was something that has grown over time, and just getting the confidence with learning how to I've always been very customer service focused, so that was never an issue for me. But getting the confidence in my quilting for sure was something that it built up more and more over time. I mean, I gained confidence pretty quickly because I did learn Creative Studio pretty quickly. And, my name got out there pretty quickly. So I was very lucky. And, so I think knowledge is key, and you can never learn too much. There's so many different ways within Creative Studio that you can get from point A to point B. And
Yes.
how you manage to do that, what works best for you may not be what works best for me, and vice versa. So the key is the end result. And I'm pretty proud to say, over 14 years of doing this, and there's really only been two customers in that lifetime that I would say I kind of had to divorce. And again, one of those is because she chose a pattern and wasn't happy with it, which that wasn't my doing. And the other one was just, she just had very unrealistic expectations as to what she wanted and what I could give her. And and the key is too is know when to say no. The no is a complete sentence, and you have to know what you're capable of. And I have confidence now. I can pretty much accomplish anything on Creative Studio and on a quilt. But I can't say that 12, 13 years ago that would have been the case. But just over time, it definitely builds. And yeah, 100%. the more confident you are in what you're doing is and definitely your customers see it and they know it.
You got any insight into dealing with difficult customers? I know you mentioned those couple. Um, any other tidbits of wisdom?
I just think it's important, if you typically it's because of something that either his their expectations are one thing, and
Mm,
when you're consulting with your customers, when you're having that meeting with them and talking about what they want to do on their quilts, it's important to make sure you're taking a look at what you're dealing with when it comes in,
hmm.
and being realistic with them and say,
Yeah.
if you have a customer that comes in where the quilt is a bunch of super busy fabric, she says, I want custom on this. And I'm going to say, well, I'll do custom if you really want, but I think you're throwing your money away. And, I think it's more being honest and telling them, you've got all this busy fabric here. Why you're not going to see the quilting? I would recommend not doing that. But if they still want me to do custom on it, I'm not going to tell them no.
Right.
I'll do it, but it's just being real and giving them those realistic expectations. And then for me, I think one of the big things out there that people struggle with when it comes to their long arm quilter is, their quilts, they take them to their quilter and they're in a queue, and it's whenever their number comes up. I, on the other hand, actually, I use a scheduling system. I just use my Google Calendar, and I know how many quilts I can get done in a day, and based on the size of the quilt and what I'm doing on it. And I I tell them a day that I'm going to actually start working on their quilt. And people appreciate that. They know what the turnaround time is, and they know when they're going to get their quilt back. And that's a big deal for a lot of people. And, I always leave enough room in my schedule to handle those people who, oh my gosh, my daughter-in-law had a baby and I need to have this quilted right away, or whatever the case is.
Hmm.
Um, I keep enough flexibility in there to accommodate that. But I just think it's important to let people know what are you dealing with exactly. Your turnaround time right now, my
Yeah.
turnaround time is about a month out. There's times when it's almost 3 months out, but they know that in advance because I'm telling them I'll get your quilt done this day. So
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like an important thing is established so people have, yeah, realistic the expectations. You've used that word several times, expectation.
yeah,
So people know what to expect, and yeah, uh, there's no guesswork there. So that.
no, and if I do run across a problem, the perfect example is the quilt that I worked on. It was a brand new customer. She's in Colorado. She got my name from somebody else. So I never personally met her. But she mailed me two quilts, two Judy Meyers that she wanted custom. So, we're talking a good chunk of change for quilting those two quilts. And when I opened it up, I kind of had to I examined everything pretty closely, and I noticed that there were some issues with some of her seam work. So I called her. I just picked up the phone and I called her. I said, look, this is what we're working with. And I said, just the nature of the kind of quilt that you have here is going to be very difficult to fix those seams. I said, I can quilt it. Just know that I'm not going to be able to repair what's not repairable. And she was so thankful that I called her, because she said another quilter she had sent quilts to didn't, and just basically gave her quilts back quilted and just gave her all kinds of negative feedback. And she thanked me up and down because I was very positive with her and tried to walk her through ways to maybe in the next one how to do a little bit differently to have a better outcome. And she was very, very appreciative. In fact, I posted her quilt on Facebook because I have my own business Facebook page. And she was so excited because even though it wasn't perfect for a lot of people, it still ended up being a beautiful quilt. And she was proud of
Mhm.
that. So, you know, I think that's important too, is to
Yeah.
make sure just communicate with your customers.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I got a question. If you this is a hypothetical, but
Okay.
with your one Statler machine,
Mhm.
um, and you working by yourself, and you were like under the gun, how many quilts could you put out, and how, how long would it take you to, like, how many quilts could you put out in a month if you were like just going as hard as you could?
Oh, oh
I'm
gosh.
just curious.
That's a good question. Let me think about that one. If it
I'm
were
throwing
just
I'm throwing
edge,
a curveball at you
yeah, you are. I mean, if it
because
was just
people
edge to
wonder about
edge,
this kind of thing.
I well, and they should, because that's an important part of the decision making when you're making that kind of investment. But perfect example, yesterday and today. Yesterday, I did 3 lap size quilts in 8 hours. And that wasn't, those were not super open patterns. They were average size, medium size quilting. And that was from start to finish. That was loading to taking the last one off. And I actually loaded
Mhm.
another quilt at the end of the day. Today, I actually did two lap size and 3 baby quilts. And I just loaded another one just before I got on the call. So,
Wow.
you know, with I upgraded to the Ascend, which was huge. I did that in September. And
You
for
see a lot of
edge,
difference with that Ascend?
I
FX?
did. The speed on that, and I'm very anal, so I was not one that kind of let it go full speed when I first got it. I was kind of afraid. I kind of kept it at my original speed, and I would like notch it up one, and then I would notch it up another one. I still am not full speed, but the speed on edge to edge is huge. The bigger thing for me was the precision. The precision
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing. I, I that was for any reason at all. That would be the one reason I would say I'm the happiest with going with the Ascend upgrade,
Okay.
hands down.
Yeah. Yeah. The Ascend has they have beefier X and Y motors and beefier belts, which enables them to have both higher speed and combined with the higher speed, better accuracy. So
Yeah,
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 I've heard so much good stuff about the Ascend
yeah.
from the people when I talk to people in tech support. So all right, we got to move on. I, I hadn't even got halfway through my questions here. No, but that's good. That's good. You're very enjoyable to talk to. Um,
Thank you.
can you think of anything that was really hard about growing your business? Is there anything that you can think of and that you would be able to tell somebody that's starting out?
I think the hardest thing for me was establishing when I'm working and when I'm not working.
Hmm.
Being in the shop was easy because once I left, I was done.
Are
Uh,
you a bit of a workaholic?
um, no,
Now, be honest. Are you? Okay.
I used to be in my previous life. Yes.
Okay.
I worked a lot of hours when I was in the mortgage industry. Um, and just getting the business started, I felt that I just had to do that. I was trying to keep a quick turn time and establish my base. So
Hmm.
probably that was the hardest thing. And then once my machines, I moved them home, which was in 2015. It was closing that door and just leaving the machines be overnight. And I was pretty good at that pretty quickly, believe it or not. And now it's a non-issue. When I'm done for the day, I'm done for the day. I don't get up in the middle of the night when I can't sleep and say, oh, I guess I'll go quilt some more. Um, that thought actually never crossed my mind. I would rather read something and yeah, my quilting time is my quilting time, and I like to keep my,
Mhm.
that's me, my mind doesn't think about it as I'm trying to go to sleep and going, oh my God, what am I going to do in that next quilt? Yeah, I'm guilty of that one. But as far as
Gotcha.
separating work and business, excuse me, work and personal time, that was probably the toughest thing for me initially.
And if is that's something you have grown in since then, you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Good deal.
And a lot of it's because my husband's retired. So, and I have grandkids that live close by, and, I want to spend time with them as well. So I just said, okay, I finished loading this quilt. I like to start the morning with a loaded quilt. So I always try to load one before I close down for the night. Sometimes that's later than other nights, but it's just kind of how I like to start my day. So everybody works differently, but that's me.
Okay. Biggest cheerleader support system.
My family, 100%. My husband, he has been the huge cheerleader. Plus, he loves watching the machine go. He could sit there and stare at it for hours if I let him, but that's just a little too creepy for me. So
Yeah, I
I'll
don't
let
know.
him
I
do
don't
that.
remember if it was a conversation before we actually got on the air that you're saying about that you put your husband to work too, huh?
I
On one of
did. I did. Yeah, he actually did some
that's
edge
one
to
I
edge
don't hear
for us.
very often.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, we had a name for him, but I can't say it on here. But
Yeah, I got
the initials are QB, so quilt. Yeah. So we won't take that any further.
I got you. I got you.
My kids even made him a shirt. He was quite proud to wear it. So, but yeah.
Okay. Um, you're cracking me up. Okay. What so what kind of impact has the uh being able to make money doing this and the plus the time freedom of your schedule. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, it's just
I'm
huge
keeping it like three.
because I have 3 minutes. Oh, sorry. Um, Huge because it's just I can make my own schedule, and really you can, once you're established, it's just a matter of how much money do you want to make, really. If I wanted to work an extra day, my income could go up another 20%. I don't want to do that. I don't need to do that. So for me, it's that balance and taking time
Mhm.
off when I want to take time off. We have a travel trailer, so we like to go camping, once a month or so, and usually we go 3, 4 days, and so yeah, it's crucial to me that I
I
get to
got you.
set my own hours.
Um, for the newbies watching here, can you think of something that you wish somebody would have told you when you first started? Might have been valuable to hear.
Um, you know, kind of going back to what I said before, and I alluded to this, is no is a complete sentence, and don't be afraid to, when I would not turn work away, and sometimes I would beat myself up over it because I maybe got into something I shouldn't have. I always managed to get out of it, but um, don't take on something you're not ready to take on. Um, like I said, no is a complete sentence, and especially now that
Gotcha.
I'm established, it's I don't have a problem saying no. That was my
And
dog. Sorry.
that's all right. And in this day and age, we're in 2024. Do you think it's still possible for somebody to follow the path that you have walked? And
Oh my gosh, absolutely. There is so much business out there. There's so much business. And I talk to, especially a lot of times when I get a lot of new customers, they say, oh my gosh, I have, 15, 20 quilt tops at home. can I bring you one this month and one next month? And like, of course, I'm not going to turn that business away. So yes, there's a ton of business out there. The main thing is just getting yourself out there and working with fellow quilters that are getting involved in guilds. I never had to get involved in guilds just because I was in the shop, and I still have customers to this day that I established from the shop. But absolutely, it's out there.
Gotcha. Well, I would, I wouldn't mind talking to you for another hour, but we gotta wrap this up. It's been great talking to you, Jami.
Yeah, for
Do
sure.
you, is there any, if anybody wants to, get a hold of you or see about you, where can they go to do that?
I have a website, and it's keepsakequiltingbyjami.com. And that's Jami with no E, it's Jami. Also, I have the Facebook page, which is also Keepsake Quilting by Jami. So that I can be reached out through there. I'd love nothing more than to talk to other potential people that are interested. I think it's awesome. I've trained many people on their machines, and it's a great
Okay.
product. I can't say enough good things about it.
Well, we appreciate that. Keepsake Quilting by Jami,
Yes.
JAMI.com, and also that
Yes.
Keepsake Quilting by Jami on Facebook, did you say?
Yeah. On Facebook. Yes.
Okay. And yeah, you wouldn't mind some of the newbies reaching out to you for some feedback on and maybe
Not at all.
answer a few questions.
Not
Okay.
at all.
Well, thank you so much, Jami. Okay, well, it's been great talking to you. I cannot believe we've been 52 minutes talking to one person.
Yeah.
That's because
Sorry.
you're verbally gifted. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But okay, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Jami, thank you again for being an inspiration.
Thank you
And
very much.
for
My
all of you
pleasure.
watching, we look forward to seeing you again next week. And happy quilting. Bye bye,
All right.
guys.
Bye bye.